Respect to the people who went to Laurent Garnier and have just come here. You know who you are. But my name's James Mail. I work for an agency called FRUKT in London. And just for the next 30 minutes, I'm just going to take you through some tips and pointers on how to build successful partnerships between brands and music. I'm hoping that there'll be some kind of practical stuff in here. I'm not going to try and use jargon or sound bites, whilst also providing a bit of inspiration. First of all, thank you to Peter and all the guys at First Day of Spring. Thank you to you guys for being here, for being interested, having intrigue, having passion in this space, and you know, we're really kind of honoured to be part of this great event. It's some building as well. So I'm just going to kind of go through three things very quickly: who we are, making partnerships work, which is applicable to anything. And general principles that brands and artists and music content and rights owners we think should take into account to make a brand partnership work. And then we're going to talk about the EDM opportunity, purely because of the fact that EDM is so big now that it's impossible to ignore, but it feels quite apt to talk about it whilst being in Amsterdam for ADE. So in terms of who we are, a bit about me. I'm from a very small island called the Isle of Man, and not a lot happens there, but I listened to Renaissance Volume 1, mixed by Sasha and John Digweed, and it blew my mind in terms of musical possibilities. And it's quite apt that Sasha's playing tonight as well, so I'm very happy about that. I loved it so much, I spent a lot of time in nightclubs in the north of England, most notably Cream, a lot of queuing, actually, as well as dancing. Dave Clark and Carl Cox are my kind of heroes, and I loved it so much that I set up my own business and became a club promoter full-time, setting up a couple of nights, and basically continued my general movement down to the south of the country and ended up in London, where I basically combined my two passions of music and marketing, and they've come together. So in terms of us, we don't work in all of that building, just a little bit, but we've been going since 2011, and what we do is formulate strategic partnerships between brands and people that are in the entertainment space. We've got offices all around the place. There's about 50 odd of us in London, and yeah. And we are kind of our philosophy, our mission, if you like, is that we believe that brands, through their campaigns, can create amazing experiences and kind of really add value to people's everyday lives. And that actually by doing so, that they should invest in and support the creative industry. Whilst doing that, also achieving their own marketing and business objectives. So let's not be naive about this. You know, brands are in this space because they're either trying to shift more products, or they're trying to build brand affinity, or they're trying to establish a new image or positioning. But we think that all of that can happen together. And our mission, if you like, is to convince brands that that is possible. And we call this a kind of win-win entertainment, and that's why we call it smart entertainment. How we work, fairly simple, kind of three-pillar agency structure. So detailed thinking is strategy. So we look at a brand's business and marketing objectives and what they want to achieve. We develop a creative idea within the glass walls of what the brand wants to achieve, so it's delivering on the brand's objectives. And then we actually activate it, bring it to life either through physical experiences or online. These are some of our clients. Unfortunately, we don't have a soup brand on there, so you know it's a missed opportunity for us maybe. Yeah, we're kind of proud of our clients, and the work's pretty varied. So that is just kind of very quick introduction. So in terms of making partnerships work, I think you know, 95% of our clients are brands, and our duty as an agency is to serve those brands. But we are connected to and are passionate about the world of music and entertainment. That's kind of our passion. And the other thing to understand is that brands and people will, artists or music content rights owners within the music industry, a brand partnership obviously can't live when one of those groups is not part of it. And we think that this is not about serving brands at the expense of people within the creative industry or within the music industry. It's the opposite. We believe in partnerships where basically everybody wins. And what that means is, is that brands, we feel, can achieve more if they are brave and they think wider than looking at an opportunity as badging something or doing a series of events or just doing a sponsorship. But also, for artists, it's to think about how a brand can kind of add value to what you're doing beyond monetary benefit. So just because of the fact that the music industry model of selling copyrighted recorded music has fallen down, this isn't, if you're an artist or somebody within the creative industry, this isn't just an easy way to get dollar. It's a way of thinking about how you can achieve more and how you can get benefits that goes beyond monetary benefit. And this is what we call the value exchange. So what does that mean? So from a brand point of view, artists provide huge opportunities in terms of reaching out to new audiences. If you're presenting to a brand, one of the main things that they will ask you is, who's your target audience? Because they will have a very clear idea of who they're trying to sell soup to. So it's basically, the reach that you provide if you're an artist. By the way, I understand that an artist can be a brand at the same time and everything else, but for the simplicity of trying to illustrate the point, I'm just talking about it like this, is that, artists provide huge reach to existing fan networks, and that's hugely important to brands. In terms of credibility, an artist partnership or a strategic alignment that works can reinforce a brand's existing positioning, provide a kind of cultural credibility and also be used to establish a new positioning if a brand's trying to kind of create a new identity or image. And also the right partnerships can underline or make a more authentic tone of voice. And from a content point of view, leveraging the artist's creativity in terms of creating content that is of the best quality and is in line with what the stories that the brand's trying to tell. It provides huge opportunities, as well as stuff like trade and affiliate relationships and everything else. It goes much wider. From an artist's point of view, it's kind of thinking about it not just in terms of the money, but also in terms of what a brand can do to help you. So if you're a telecommunications company and you have a network of millions, if not billions of people, that's a distribution channel for your music. It's also looking at leveraging media value through campaigns, through promotions, through whatever. So by leveraging that, you can get huge added value, media value, by leveraging a brand partnership. The other thing is that brands obviously have money. Money can get you good quality things and stuff if you're an artist to create. So it might be world-class facilities, recording studios, producers, talent, stylists, whatever it is. So it's kind of thinking about how a brand partnership can be used to help you achieve what you want to achieve creatively. And also there's kind of stuff like incremental value that if you get added exposure through a big kind of brand campaign and everything else, artists can get incremental value by maybe generating sales through their back catalogs, pointing to merchandise, or whatever. But ultimately, it's about if you're an artist or somebody in the creative industry and you want to do a brand partnership and it feels right, and bear in mind that it's not right for everybody, think like a brand and think about how a brand needs to see a proposal presented to them in order for them to be able to visualize how that can be used to deliver on their business and marketing objectives. From our experience, there is no shortage of creativity. It's actually about how you're pitching it. And that's something that can easily be rectified, and one of the things that we try to support the creative industries with. And from a brand point of view, there's a responsibility to, in our view, to think about the opportunities that sit within this space. So to kind of to think beyond just shoving a logo 300 times around an event, it's thinking about how you can kind of really add value to the consumer and go beyond just badging stuff. And in terms of what all this stuff costs, somebody famously said that, price is what you pay, value is what you negotiate. And ultimately, it's about these two groups coming together to create a partnership where everybody wins. This is what we do when we sit down with our clients in terms of a process. So the first thing is that we look at their ambitions and objectives and their commercial and marketing objectives, because ultimately, if the most creative, most amazing, most authentic, most brilliant campaign in the world that's kind of held up a Cannes Lion and win lots of awards, if it doesn't deliver on the objectives, it's not working, it's not smart entertainment. So we establish that first. The second stage is we kind of take a brand's core positioning and we kind of map that out culturally across the cultural landscape. So if you're Converse, if you're Vans, if you're Red Bull, if you're Nike, if you're Adidas, whatever, it's about ensuring that you've got a point of differentiation, but not just for differentiation's sake. It's about trying to find a position that's authentic, but also makes you stand out from the crowd. And that ultimately informs a meaningful role and story. So there's so much kind of obsession about social media and channels and how to tell your story. But fundamentally, your story is the most important thing. It's the thing that generates more value than anything. And a lot of people jump down to the distribution and the channel without thinking about the story first. That is the most important bit. Flow through the channels over time. So what that means is we advise brands to have scalable types of content that is more suited to one channel than the other. So if you're going to distribute bite-sized content through Twitter, or if you're going to create a longer form feature film, it's about kind of having everything in between. So you're basically getting content rights cleared in the right way that you can distribute quickly, efficiently, and nimbly. Establish a value partnership, which is what I've just talked about, and measure and learn, which obviously is essential. At define ambitions and objectives, you'd always set very clear targets, and it's about evaluating those and moving on. But this also applies to any music partner. You need to, if you're an artist or a producer or a DJ or whatever, you need to kind of work out what is your objective. There's nothing wrong about thinking commercially about what you want to achieve. If you want to make a living in this space, you have to be business-minded, you have to be smart, and that can happen without there being any kind of conflict to your own creativity. So what do you want to achieve? The second thing is, who's your target audience? So when you're sitting down and looking at who you are, and what you're doing, what you're creating, who is your target audience you're going to reach out, that you appeal to? Because, like I said before, the first thing that brand's going to say is, who is your target audience? Because they've got target markets in mind. But also, make sure that in the same way that we tell a brand to kind of look at the overall cultural landscape, what is the brand landscape for you? So which brands are a natural fit for what you want to do as a musician, as a content producer, whatever. So it becomes a natural extension of your own story. Define your story. And also, this is kind of a really important bit, and it's really, really quite dull, but it's important, is think about how you're going to produce content and deliver it to brands in the right way. So much falls down at great content being delivered, but then it's not rights cleared, or it's not been run past the publisher, that it's too clunky, it doesn't work. And actually, a lot of potentially successful brand partnerships fall down because of just simple practicalities and poor planning. Excuse me. The final thing is, don't have your own metrics on what you think success looks like. It has to be aligned with the brand, otherwise, what's the point? So, in terms of the EDM opportunity, just going to have another little bit of water. It's massive. We all know that. It's valued, I think, it's about 6.2 billion at the moment. An ex-Wall Street guy basically said it's about 20 billion. whatever the amount of billions, it's billions and it's big and massive. In terms of how that's broken down, it kind of mirrors what's happening in the, the trend that increasingly so in terms of the overall music industry is that the live area, festivals and clubs is the big kind of money earner with music and other stuff forming part of it. In terms of the opportunity, kind of going to look at this in a different way. EDM and kind of any I guess, music genre or whatever is really just a vehicle for a brand to be able to talk to their target audience in its crudest form. So it's, EDM provides a massive opportunity for brands because you've got a load of people, millennials, I should say, that are all concentrated around this kind of massive global trend and scene. And it means that brands can talk to these guys or have presence in front of these guys in a way that's hugely lucrative for them. And for music providers, they know that. The SFXs of this world, hugely professional organizations that have done a fantastic job at professionalizing the commercial side of the business, is that they also know that opportunity, which is why they were set up and there was huge acquisitions made, is that they can see that opportunity as well. So it's very easy for a brand and also for a company that's operating from the other end of the scale to kind of really milk the cow, so to speak. And actually what's important to realize is that you need to nurture it a bit, because if you exploit it, then the bubble bursts. And that's one of the key learnings that we always feel needs to happen in terms of any brand partnership, is that you're adding value and contributing to the scene, because ultimately the bubble will burst. So the opportunity lies in understanding the need. Excuse me. Amy Thompson, who used to be manager of Swedish House Mafia, has kind of talked about the fact that oversaturation of the market. Seth Troxler has kind of talked about in the time that, yeah, it's great for now, but how's it really, in terms of this audience, is it really kind of pushing the boundaries? And also, there's kind of a bit of a marketing silo in terms of what we're seeing. So, not all brands do this, obviously, but a lot of stuff is kind of primarily event or artist-focused. There's no sense of longevity or ownership. Focus on a narrow selection of established names. Minimal creative fan interaction, as Peter and the guys were saying before, is that this audience, are co-creators. They're hugely social. So, and a lot of stuff is very much about static kind of broadcast stuff that doesn't actually bring people into the creative process. And actually, considering the actual sphere, a kind of a lack of innovation as well. But the opportunity is in making a difference. So it's kind of taking those challenges and actually just flipping them on their head. So be brave. And when we say be brave, we're saying, insights are showing that millennials have actually grown up in a generation where there's economic turmoil, generally speaking. The world's in a bit of a shaky place. So they actually respect and admire brands that stand up and are actually brave. But it's also a call to action for brand managers, because actually to turn around and say, I'm going to make a long-term investment in a particular area when you're assessed on year targets it's a big thing to do. So again, so much of this is down to personalities, people and the way business just works, and down to somebody that might hold a vision working for brand X and take that 3 years on and then move to another company and the vision disappears. So in the grand structure of things, so much of this is down to people. Create a meaningful role and story, build credibility by contributing to the creative long-term future. Red Bull have celebrated the Red Bull Music Academy 15th birthday this year, and I'm going to show a video very shortly just to kind of show how a brand does it right, in short. Invest in the creative future. and also just look at kind of maximizing creative fan interaction, enhance personal social value. So millennials are actually the first generation to have a complete digital history of their lives. And broadcasting and being social and being part of communities and making a difference is huge, and building their own brand equity and making them look good is essential. So it's a big area, and innovate and push the boundaries. So I've got about 4 or 5 more slides I'm just going to go through, and rather than kind of dial up every single case study individually, there's kind of some key trends of brands that are kind of making a difference and doing it right. And mentoring and investing in the creative space is something that we're seeing a lot of brands increasingly do, which is great because it shows that they're supporting and investing in the creative industry whilst also achieving their objectives, smart entertainment. We're also seeing brands being content catalysts. So, in other words, money being able to fuel and fund new content first. So, whether you like it or not, the whole Volvo Leave the World Behind, I don't know if you've seen the video. Basically, it was Swedish House Mafia's swan song, and Volvo effectively paid for the video. And it shows them in each of their 3 different Volvos going their separate ways and whatever. But it's kind of an example of kind of how a brand is acting as a content catalyst. Live Revived, we're seeing huge stuff in terms of the industry, in terms of taking live to the next level. So, 4.2 of the 6.2 billion that we saw on that slide before is from live performances. So, this audience of putting a DJ on a stage isn't enough. It's even putting on a big show. It's kind of how can you push the boundaries of the live experience. And obviously, Nokia with the big projection mapping launch for deadmau5 and the Red Bull Revolutions and Sound, where they took over every single pod on the London Eye with different London club promoters. It's kind of stuff that is interesting, creates loads of PR for your brand, and it's just smart. And the peace, love, unity, and respect trend is big. This kind of reminds me of Gatecrasher in the mid-90s, where you kind of had the Crasher kids turning up to Sheffield, kind of wearing this crazy stuff. But it's back, basically. EDM's brought it back, and it's brands are tapping into this kind of social, this social effect of this audience are hugely connected, and the likes of Soul Republic, Motorola are all kind of building on this trend of building social stories. The final one, and I think it's just worth referencing, is the Heineken Dance More, Drink Slow. And I think what's good about this is that it shows that music and brands can kind of can deliver a social message, a social responsibility message. And obviously it featured Armin and as an ambassador, and it's great for him to be involved with it. And I think what was interesting about this was that it rather, normally social responsibility is kind of, you're always reminded about the dangers of doing something. And what it did, it kind of span it on its head and kind of said, okay, this is the positive impact of being socially responsible. And that's kind of smart, and we kind of quite liked the way that worked. So in summary, we believe in brand partnerships where everybody wins. It's about negotiating your value sweet spot, in terms of a brand, and if you're a content or rights owner or an artist or somebody in the music industry where brand partnership is applicable. And it's about not being lazy and making a difference. But I think the other thing to kind of bear in mind is that sometimes, despite all the structures, the methodologies, the approaches, everything else, it's actually no more complicated than people just getting it. I think it's Frank Huber, who's here today, who mentioned in his, apologies if I just pronounced your surname wrong, said in his pre-conference interview about the fact that because he's a DJ and because he's lived in this space, but he's also a brand manager, it gives him an ability to kind of just understand the kind of the brand side of things and the business side of things, but also to have a common sense lever that goes, actually, is somebody going to get this? So i.e. not do the soup example that we saw before. And sometimes it is just about the right people coming together who are just smart and they just get it. And it's no more complicated than that. And I think a sort of brand that gets it is Red Bull. It always seems a very easy example to kind of reference, but credit where credit's due. 15 years they've been investing in the Red Bull Music Academy. And they have invested huge amounts in developing creative talent and connecting creative people with heroes and facilitating learning and supporting the music industry as a whole. They've actually created a full-length feature film called What Difference Does It Make?, where it's basically all about making music and the people that have been involved with Red Bull before. But when you look at it and you look at some of the points that I was making before, you know, in terms of being a long-term investor, in terms of being brave, in terms of incredible storytelling, and also just how beautifully done it is, it's an example of how branded content can deliver a brand objective, invest in a creative industry, but also create a piece of content that as a punter, you're basically just looking at it and going, that's amazing, and that's actually kind of made a bit of a difference to my life. So don't worry, it's not 90 minutes, it's just the trailer, but it'll give you a flavour if you haven't seen it.
New York City, make some noise!
Joni Mitchell said singing, crying, and laughing all come up out of the same need. You know, so I think that's what art is for.
If you think about the things we like doing, sex, drugs, art, religion, they're all forms of surrender.
You have to lose yourself in your madness.
I know I'm overthinking this, but I can't stop thinking.
Hey, Mr. Music, what are you going to do? I make a new generation, a new creation, out of darkness into light.
I would say the artistic drive is like the sex drive. Get a little some and kind of feel like, okay, you're satisfied. Another day or so, you get cravings to create again.
That's a good question. Biggest danger.
A lot of musicians destroy themselves very quickly.
It comes natural to want to party. It comes natural to want to be drunk.
To me, just getting the chance to make a record was fulfilling.
The unknown, you know, that excitement.
Full of all these electronic pops in your head, making music for the future.
If you're not doing it for the love of the music, for the necessity of creating music, give up now.
Thanks very much.
James, thank you very much. I can imagine there are some people maybe in the audience who would like to be involved and have some questions as well. We've got 2 microphones on both sides of the room, so if you think about your questions, I will ask the first one. James, you started your story talking about Renaissance and your love for Dave Clark and Carl Cox, and then you spoke about the EDM opportunity, and to me it seems like EDM is huge, obviously, But there are lots and lots of sub-genres left out at the moment. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you know, genres are kind of only created to be able to sell music on shop shelves or to be able to productize and package something up in order to sell it. EDM, to be perfectly honest, has been around for years. I mean, you know, in terms of trance, in terms of what Armin's been doing, and you know, Tiesto, everybody else. I mean, it's been happening for years. It's just been packaged up in a different way. I think that what I find ironic about the whole EDM thing is that basically electronic music was kind of inspired by disco in New York and the influence of Kraftwerk and Giorgio Moroder, and then Detroit techno with Warren Atkins, Kevin Saunderson, Derek May, and Chicago House. And that it's kind of, that's the origins. It's always been there in terms of sound, and then it's kind of almost been sort of repackaged and sold back to the American market, even though that they kind of like spearheaded the whole thing. But basically, EDM is just a way of selling stuff.
Yeah. But do you foresee that, let's say, subgenres like progressive have a chance to commercialize on the back of EDM as well?
I think anything has the opportunity to commercialize if there's enough interest in it. So the whole reason why EDM's just sort of got big is that it's basically resonated with the audience. It's probably been marketed in the right way, and it's got traction. I think any scene has the potential to kind of get mainstream focus, but
is it fair to say that EDM is huge and mainstream, but that most other subgenres are still very, very small?
Yeah, I mean, and not every genre wants to be big, or sorry, every scene or particular music style. Sometimes what makes it special is because it's personal and quite unique to you. I just think in the EDM sense, you know, electronic music's always been around.
Yeah. But then the question is, what's new? Because, I mean, in the past, brands linked up with bands like U2, etc., and use them as marketing vehicles. So the only difference is, well, now it's EDM. It's Swedish House Mafia.
But I think that the way of looking at it from a brand point of view is that almost, whether it's music, whether it's comedy, whether it's whatever it is, it's kind of who is their target audience and what's the story that they want to tell. Right. And obviously trends change over time, but ultimately where a lot of brands fall down and try get this kind of manufactured authenticity is by not staying true to what they believe in. And obviously, trends change, popular culture changes. It might be EDM one week, it might be another, but I think that from a brand point of view, if you're just staying true to yourself and reaching out to your target audience in the right way, it could be music, it could be anything else. But if you try to be something that you're not, then consumers see through that, and it's counterproductive.
Okay. Anybody in the audience who has any remarks? You've all been partying last night, haven't you? No, well, in that case, no problem. I suggest we're going to have our coffee break. One question? Okay, please introduce yourself.
My name is Thijs van Olven. I'm a brand manager for FRUKT. And that's exactly the thing. I love your vision on the artist and the brand. And then you said something which I would like to highlight. It can be the other way around. A brand can be an artist, and an artist can be a brand.
Yeah.
Especially in electronic dance music, I experience a lot to be approached as a giant bag of money. And it's actually the thing I don't want, and we don't want, because part of the thing is we reach the same audience, and we try to engage the same audience. And if you look from like the producer part or the label part of the electronic dance music, they're selling just music. I'm not talking about the creative idea behind that. We are trying to sell deodorant, shower gels, whatever. But exactly, we are selling to the millennials. Let's team up and make something real engaging and cool for that audience.
Yeah.
On our creative side, but also on the music creative side. And well, let's talk about the money afterwards. And first look at where are the values and stuff. So I really like that part. And then the real magic happens. Because you can get two very strong forces together to engage the whole millennial and make something new and great out of it. And I think electronic dance music is there and it is able to do such.
Shall we let James react to that?
Completely agree. Yeah, it was interesting because I was at a conference in Sofia in Bulgaria the other week, and Bulgaria, I think, is one of the poorest countries in the European Union, and but they've got an incredible cultural scene and a kind of really, growing creative industry. And one of the sessions was people from the creative industry were presenting to a panel of brands, and I touched on this earlier on in my presentation, that the creative opportunity, or I guess the business opportunity as well for brands was there, but they just weren't selling it in the right, or communicating it in the right way. The whole thing was kind of done as a way of underlining the point, but consequently what they're doing after that conference is that they're having a day workshop where they're getting key brands from Sofia in the Bulgarian market and leaders from the creative industry together to work out what the value exchange looks like. And I think that, again, I talk about the practical day-to-day, you're a brand manager, and I know how busy your lives are. And actually finding time, like you are now, to step away from the day-to-day and to think kind of in a higher level and think about how you can do that stuff is always difficult. But it's something that we believe strongly as an agency, that even if it's 4 hours of sitting down in a room with people to try and work that out, it can be mutually beneficial for both sides. And yeah, like I say, that was a very long way of me saying that I completely agree with you.
Thank you very much, Jen.